YouTube vinyl community, Marvin Gaye fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we're here today to talk about Marvin Gaye's groundbreaking work, What's Going On, released through Motown Records in 1971. The lead up to this album is painful because of what Marvin was going through in his life personally, and as he was doing so, was reflecting on the world at the same time. Um, to make a very long story short, his singing partner Tammy Terrell in the 60s, who they had lots of hits together, she unfortunately passed away from a brain tumor at the age of 24. And Marvin and her were extremely close. He loved her to pieces. And when she died, he had a very hard time accepting that. And during that time, he was also going through a really heavy depression. He was starting to get into drugs. And he also attempted suicide one time. So he was a guy who was very troubled by demons, which is horrible because so many artistic and creative people and people that look so happy on the outside have that trouble. But Marvin was going through this period of his life where Tammy had passed away and he wasn't sure what he wanted to do. So he sort of isolated himself in his house and realized, I don't think I want to do much of anything right now. I don't want to sing again on stage. I don't want to make music right now. An album came out of his in early 1970 that he did not promote in any way, shape, or form. And in the middle of the year, he kind of got to the point where he realized there was more to life than just singing about himself. Marvin was a pop singer, as Motown was, and, making leaps into socially conscious music was a scary thing for a record company because that can be polarizing. And polarizing doesn't equal sales. And when Marvin started writing the song of What's Going On, he brought it to Berry Gordy, and there's rumors about whether or not this is true, but he brought it to Berry Gordy, and Berry didn't like it. That's one side. The other side says, yeah, Berry loved it. We don't know the true story. Anyways, the song, at the time, if we're going with the Berry didn't like it story, 100,000 copies of the single got pushed out to radio stations, and it sold to stores rather and radio stations, and it sold insanely well. So another 100,000 went out, and those were selling really well too. So on the basis of that single doing so well, Berry was like, "All right, well, go in there, do your own thing." And Marvin wrote or co-wrote all the songs. He produced the album. He put his heart and soul into this record, and it shows. I mean, it's just an absolutely mind-blowing listen from the second the needle hits the groove to the second it ends on side two. It was recorded throughout June to September of 1970, and it picked up again from March to May of 1971. The What's Going On single came out in early 1971 in January, and this album eventually hit number 2 on the Billboard 200. I mean, it did so well. I'm sorry, the single did. What's Going On, the single did, went to number 2. This album went to number 6 on the Billboard Top 200 when it came out in May, but eventually peaked at number 6. At the time, What's Going On was Motown's fastest selling single. So this was something Berry was kind of like, wow, I guess he's really onto something here. And Marvin created an absolute masterpiece. And for someone to have gone through so much hell and to realize his hell is but a small version of the bigger picture, and to write an album reflecting that, what a statement, what a piece of art. And recently, this album was picked as the #1 best album of all time by Rolling Stone magazine. And it definitely deserves the accolade. I mean, from start to finish, there's not a bad note on this thing. It's an absolute masterpiece. So like I said, the album opens up with What's Going On, the title track here. And we've all heard this song. It's an amazing track. It's brilliant in its production. The reverb on this thing gives this song such a crazy life. The smooth, sweeping strings gives the cinematic element to the lyrical content about what's happening in the world, particularly to Black Americans, but really to people experiencing war in Vietnam, the government, taxes. He touches on a lot of topics, and most of this album is about that. Humanity's struggle to keep it together, basically, but it's sung so passionately and so from the soul that it instantly connects with you. And the party atmosphere of talking to his brothers, talking to his friends, he's like relaying this message and learning from everybody else. It's a song about unity and listening to each other and learning from each other and seeing where we can go. And it's definitely got a sing-along kind of vibe in the chorus, but I love the double-tracked lead vocal. I read a story one time where Marvin recorded two different lead vocals and then accidentally just put them both together, and when they listened to it, they liked what they heard and they left it. Kind of a cool story. Track 2, What's Happening, Brother? This one musically kind of continues What's Going On was doing, but eventually it finds its own groove, and it's a shimmering song that it has its own voice. But this one kind of fine-tunes the story a little bit, so instead of being more on a global scale, if you will, or national scale, it's a little bit more of a neighborhood scale. So it's asking like, oh, how's your job going? What's that like? Do you still have your job? You know, what's your family life like? What's your loss? What's your love? That kind of stuff. Looking for happiness. So it's very much more of a down the street neighborhood kind of version of What's Going On, which I love. Flying High, in the Friendly Sky. This song for me, and I could be way off about this, but for me, when I hear this song and I read about it and I've read about Marvin's life, this song for me is a drug song, I think. Again, I could be wrong here. You know, the depression he was going through, the loss he was going through, his dependency on drugs, which he'd have problems with drugs throughout most of his life, unfortunately, but, you know, flying high with your feet on the ground, and it's that kind of mentality. Mentally, you're in a different place because you've got stimulants to take you somewhere else and take you away from all the pain and all the hardships you're experiencing. So, I mean, lyrically, like, I read a little bit of the words here. I mean, yeah, flying high in the friendly sky, flying high without ever leaving the ground. You know, rest of the folks are tired and weary. You know, they've laid their bodies down. I go to a place where danger awaits me and bound to forsake me. So stupid-minded, I can't help it. Yeah, some stupid-minded. So he knows it's wrong. He knows whatever he's getting into is bad, but it's helping him get through. And that could be said for anybody. Maybe it's not just him. Maybe it's about anybody's situation where they're going through a hard time, looking for some sort of escape. Save the Children is the next song on here. And Marvin kind of sings and recites this one as almost a poem, and I love this. My takeaway from this song was joyous and cautious, which is a weird juxtaposition to have those two words together, but I get this feeling that there's a happiness, there's a positivity and an optimism here, but it's also kind of like, you know, is the water hot before you put your feet in? It's that kind of feeling of like, how do we go about changing things, making the world a better place for the next generation, hoping we leave it in a good situation where if they pick it up, they can keep running with it. You know, we only get one planet, so we want to make sure it's good for the next people that are here after we're long gone. God is Love is a track that follows it. It's a very spiritual song about understanding God and love and respect, and really owning to the spiritual powers you might believe in and listening to those messages and sort of running with that. You know, and particularly on this album, he sings about God and Jesus and love a lot. And he references the Bible a lot, and you know he was a spiritual guy. I mean, he really was. And so, you know, having that be such a crucial element to his music and his lyrical content on so many tricky topics that he's covering on this album, you know, having some sort of faith-based element in your life to give you some sort of peace of mind when everything else is chaos. You know, that grounding I think is pretty essential. And then you get the last track on here, Mercy, Mercy Me, The Ecology. I love the clean guitar tone on this one. The way that guitar just shimmers the whole way through. Marvin's voice against the bongos and the classic reverb production. You know, a song about feeling a little hopeless and looking around and seeing that things aren't that great. You know, your water's polluted, there's radiation, there's this, there's that, there's some bad crap going on. And wondering, what do we do? You know, so whenever I hear that song, I think of this album cover because I think of him kind of looking around and being like aware of what's happening and trying to find something to take out of it and some way to make things better. It's an amazing song. The production on this album is fantastic, and I should have mentioned the album plays as a song cycle, so it's basically one long track. Very few breaks. Most songs connect into each other. Side 2 opens up with the 7-minute long Right On, which goes through several different changes, but overall it's a very hypnotic kind of groove. It's a very cinematic feel, something that the Temptations were starting to do, making their longer songs with Norman Whitfield. A very epic-like production, if you will, but I love the classic Marvin piano. His playing style is very unique. He's got a very peculiar piano style. I love the flutes on here. Hell of a bass groove on this song. This song just rips through. But I like the changes and the dynamics that it has because it makes a longer song not feel long because you're kind of moving and growing with it at the same time. Holy Holy, a brilliant track. Sweet, tender, full of heart. It's a song about coming together, spreading love, being there for each other. You know, a timeless song about all the work that we have left to do to bring people together. It's not that hard. Very easy to do. Love one another. There, done. And then the last song of the album, which is one of my favorites, Inner City Blues, Make Me Wanna Holler. That rolling bass line, again, whew, what a bass line. But the delivery on this one, the vocal delivery is so succinct and so hard hitting. These lines about like not being able to pay your bills and the taxes are piling up, and you know, when they sing, you know, makes me want to holler. This really, you know, this ain't living. You know, those lines about like just trying to be you and experience life, but there's so much holding you down. Anybody can relate to that. You know, it's a crazy world we live in, and you know, makes you want to scream, makes you want to holler. It's, you know, you're at the end of your rope. You're at the point where you're like, I don't know what to do. I'm at a breaking point here. A track that moves and grows and breathes so much life. There's just an extra amount of urgency on this track, and it's fitting that this is the last track because the whole album kind of leads up to this moment, this culmination of a body of work about yearning for peace and love and unity. You know, and I love how it kind of slightly echoes Mercy, Mercy Me again as it comes around to kind of bring things back before the record ends. But, whew, what an album, man. Love the pictures on this thing. Just excellent photography on this one. And the inner, whoops. So you get all the lyrics and a family montage there. This is a 2014 pressing, I think, of this album. It said it somewhere, my apologies, but yeah, very well done. Very clean sounding pressing, so I highly recommend. As far as I know, this is the most modern reissue of this album. I don't own an original. I'd like to pick one up someday, but this is perfect for now. Let me show you the record, actually. I think it's 2014. Does it say on the record? No, it doesn't. But they recreated the Tamla Motown labels there. So yeah, it's an album that I have, every time I listen to it, I discover something new on it, which for me is always the mark of brilliant musicianship, brilliant lyricism, and performance and longevity, and something that can grow with you as you grow as a person. So for me, this album really is a 10 out of 10. It really deserves all the accolades that it gets, and it just deserves it. It's an album that begs the world to listen, and to listen to each other, and to change, and to spread love, and spread peace, and harmony, and unity. We all share this place together. And, you know, our differences make us special, and our differences should bring us together to learn from each other. That's what this album's about. It's about understanding that the system is broken and wanting to change that system, and that it could be possible if enough of us realize what needs to be changed. It's a heavy album. It's a heavy message. It's a heavy everything. And it's a beautifully constructed record that there isn't one bad note on this thing. And Marvin and the band really put their all into it. So, hands down, a 10 out of 10 album. If you haven't heard this album all the way through, please do yourself a favor. Put this on, get the record, put the CD on, stream it on Spotify, put your phone away. Just play this album and listen to the lyrics and get lost in the music. It will take you to a different place. So, that's it. My name is Giggens. This has been Marvin Gaye, What's Going On from 1971. 10 out of 10, hands down. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, be well, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.